Today is patch day for Battlefield 5. The first January update has arrived, bringing with it plenty of content that will be filling the Lightning Strikes chapter that runs until the middle of March, but it's also got a bunch of fixes, changes, and new features as well. The second patch will arrive later on in January. DICE is going in hard with the fixes, but this patch right now has set about trying to tidy up gameplay and get rid of some of those annoying, aggravating little bugs. Let's dive into the patch notes. We've got about 8 pages worth to break down, so I'll be highlighting the important stuff. First of all, let's talk about vaulting. This is a bit of a hit or miss feature in Battlefield 5 at the moment, but the patch has implemented quite a few fixes for the system, and it should really help improve the experience. Vaulting will no longer incorrectly trigger when running up steep hills or slopes if you hit the jump button. Detection of the vaulting system has been improved when trying to get through windows that have already been broken. In general, when approaching the window from a tight angle now, the game should now detect what you want to do and allow you to vault through it. And a fix has been implemented to stop you taking damage, or more damage than intended when vaulting, depending on the height of the fall. So if you're just jumping over a fence, you now won't randomly take damage and die. If you fall out of a first story building, you're likely still going to take a little bit of damage. Some work has also been done to the animations in Battlefield 5 for this patch. A tweak to the ragdoll system will mean that when a soldier is killed by an explosion, their body will now blend better into a ragdoll position on the ground, rather than snapping to it and causing some weird movements. The auto peak and auto lean feature got some tweaks as well. That's to improve their activation points and to make the feature feel a little bit more seamless for the player. And DICE fixed an issue where the ammo self-resupply animation would get stuck and play infinitely. That's gone now, and you can shoot your weapon properly. Now onto some vehicle-specific changes and fixes that are coming. First of all, half-track vehicles will now take more damage more consistently to make them easier to destroy. This differentiates them further from the tanks, which are harder to destroy. DICE has increased the damage of the Stuka's main cannons against all targets, but they've reduced the splash damage at the same time. So this puts more emphasis on accurate fire, potentially making strafe runs more beneficial. Less accurate shooting will still get you damage points, but you're unlikely to do that much damage to what you're aiming at. All tank cannons are now once again one-hit kill against airplanes, even those ones equipped with specializations that reduce damage from flak. And this is to emphasize the skill shot that's needed to take out planes. And whilst we're on the subject, the Panzerfaust has also been returned to a one-hit kill on all airplanes too. Speaking of the Panzerfaust, that has had its damage reduced against all armor types. DICE found it to be a fire and forget option, and it was being used by a large portion of the player base. The damage is still high enough that a single player, using angles and certain bits of cover, that they could disable a tank on their own without help, but it's now more fair for the vehicle players being attacked by it. The ammo capacity of all airplane cannons has been increased from 150 to 200 rounds, so pilots don't have to reload as often. DICE has balanced the differences between coaxial and port-firing machine guns on vehicles. This is to eliminate the scenario where a German vehicle machine gun would do less damage compared to a British one in almost exactly the same scenario, so things are now balanced better. The Stuka siren, the Jericho trumpets, they've been increased in their volume because, well, it's World War II, and the audio mix in airplanes in general has been changed so that you can hear more of the propeller noise and less engine noise. And DICE has changed the reload times of bombs and rockets again. Rockets are down to 15 seconds from 30, and bombs are down to 20 seconds from 30. So this will likely invoke an increase in bombing runs on some of the larger maps, although they shouldn't be anywhere near as frequent still as what they were at the launch of the game. Next, we're moving on to weapons, gadgets, and specializations, and we've got a lot to discuss here, so let's get started. The M1907 SF in the Assault class has had its extended magazine specialization removed, and the extended magazine has been permanently applied to the weapon instead. According to DICE, the weapon wasn't useful enough without the extended mag, meaning choosing the hipfire options from the specialization tree wasn't very popular. recoil buffer has been added in its place in the tree. And to balance things, DICE has increased the vertical recoil of the M1907 to 0.82 from 0.68, making it slightly harder to land multiple shots at range and firmly putting it as a mid-range rifle. The Tommy gun has had the effectiveness of its ported barrel specialization decreased to bring it in line with other SMGs in the class. Select fire has also been added to the Tommy gun as well, so you can switch to semi-auto if you want to. The deploy time of the STG-44, that's the time between you stopping moving and being able to fire the gun, has been reduced from 0.85 to 0.8 seconds. That's to match the animation that plays and to remove the very small moment where you couldn't fire the gun. The reload times on the Suomi SMG, when using its standard magazine, have been reduced. It's now 2.3 seconds for a tactical reload and 3.45 seconds for a full reload. DICE has done this to reduce the importance of using the extended magazine for the Suomi. Reload times of the smaller mag are now a bit shorter for you. Tweaks to the SMG weapon animations have been made. This is a really cool fix actually. These apply to hipfire animations and should now no longer allow the weapon to fall right across your crosshair whilst you're hipfiring. Previously, some SMGs would obscure the target you were aiming at by fully obscuring them across the crosshair, which of course is right in the middle of your screen. It happened to me a few times with the Tommy gun, and I'd lose gunfights because my weapon stopped me from seeing the enemy player move, so it's nice to know that DICE recognise that and have fixed it. Weapons using the swings and swivels and enhanced grip specializations have been fixed. They remained inaccurate when going from sprinting to firing in hipfire. The long delay on the Panzerfaust has been removed. Switching to it will now allow you to fire it much faster than you could before. This was one of those more annoying issues with the weapon, and I'm glad that DICE has patched that out. The throwing knives have had their max range increase back to 10 meters, previously it was 6.5, and the delay between being able to throw a second throwing knife has been reduced by 40% as well. So if you want to confirm a kill or simply kill someone using only throwing knives at short distances, you've now got a better chance of doing that. The parameters for explosive damage using grenades against sandbag wall fortifications have been changed. You're now going to need multiple grenades to take down a sandbag wall. However, rocket launchers like the Panzerfaust will be able to take down a wall in one hit. This is actually a change that a lot of players have been asking for. Previously, one grenade could destroy a sandbag wall, which didn't really seem very appropriate, so now you're going to need a little bit more firepower to take that thing down. And, whilst we're on explosives, the parameters for explosive damage against players behind cover has also been changed. If a player is now properly concealed behind cover and the cover is destroyed, they'll take damage instead of being outright killed if they're at 100 health. If they're below 100 health, there's still a chance they could die from that explosion. Changing gears quickly here, I want to talk about scope glint on some of the rifles. DICE is making some significant changes here. Firstly, the size and intensity of the scope glints for medium-powered and high-powered scopes. Medium scope glints are now going to be smaller and less intense than the higher-powered scope glints. The starting visibility of the scope glint has been pushed out a little bit further. This means that you should see slightly less in general, but when you do see a scope glint after the patch, you know the player is a fair distance away, and DICE has made sure that the visibility of medium-powered scope glints falls off over a distance. At more extreme ranges, you won't be able to see the glint anymore, but at those ranges, somebody with a medium-powered scope is not likely to cause you that much trouble. Back to weapons now, and this time onto some proper handling and damage stat changes. The Selbstlader 1916 and the Gewehr 43 have had their minimum damage reduced to 33.5 from 35 previously. SMGs across the board have had their recoil values reduced and their accuracy values increased to give them a buff in mid-range combat scenarios. No direct damage changes have been made yet to the SMGs, but DICE wants to see if these changes allow medics to compete and win more gunfights at mid-range. More changes might come in the future. When hip-firing SMGs, their sustained fire stats have been improved. The base dispersion of SMGs has been reduced to 0.15 from 0.2, meaning all SMGs should feel more controllable, and it enables the low rate of fire SMGs to be more effective at mid-range. The Suomi has had its vertical recoil reduced to 0.76 from 0.8, and its horizontal recoil to 0.93 from 0.95. This is to balance it more closely to the Tommy gun, which is its direct competitor. And the EMP has had its recoil pattern strength somewhat reduced to make single-shot fire not so biased to going sideways. The M1A1 carbine has had its vertical recoil increased to 0.6 from 0.55. I think we all know the power that the M1A1 can hold, and so DICE is making this change to bring it back in line with other semi-auto rifles, and to make it a little bit more difficult at hitting those extreme long-range shots, one after the other. And the vertical recoil reduction that weapons get when crouching and in prone has been decreased, meaning the weapons will be a little bit harder to control now in those states than they were previously, and that reduction now no longer stacks with the reduction when using a bipod. And now some miscellaneous points to finish up. Voiceovers now play when you're in the man down state and someone is coming to revive you. Footsteps audio has been massively improved with volume increases for sprinting or walking and lower volumes for crouch and prone movement, so this should help you detect enemies around you if they're unaware that you're there. A PC-specific improvement, the density of the fields on the Arras map has been increased when playing on lower graphical settings, so you don't get an advantage by using those lower settings. An issue has been fixed where the bleed out functionality would not work properly. The rarity of vehicle skins has been added to the vehicle customization screen. And finally, in the final stand game mode, which you should see more of after this patch, you can no longer skip the revive at all. You have to wait for a revive or fully bleed out. Now that is a lot of changes and a lot of fixes and a lot of improvements to Battlefield 5. However, with the patch has come a couple of issues, and yes, I can hear you groaning. Every time this game gets updated, more issues seem to become present. You'll notice here, during this kill cam, which has been improved, you'll now notice that it follows the enemy player, which is great, and the enemy player has an icon above their head, so you know who killed you. That's a good improvement. The bad improvement is that the kill cam HUD goes away, there's a 3 and 4 second gap, and then the man down state HUD comes up. There's 3 or 4 seconds there where you literally cannot do anything. And I think the kill cam timers got changed to incorporate this new visibility stuff, but someone didn't change the UI timers, so the UI doesn't appear and things don't happen for 3 or 4 seconds. DICE knows about it, it's not intentional. You can see this tweet here from Drunksy. They're working on trying to fix it, but unfortunately that's been introduced with this patch. And a second one, this might have already been fixed, it may be a back-end fix that DICE can change, but at the moment, Frontline Small has been reduced to 8v8 from 16 versus 16. It's totally unintentional, it's something that DICE weren't aware of. They are now aware of it, and they are going to try and fix it, but it kind of made me laugh a little bit when I saw that in the server browser when I booted up the game. But aside from those issues, I do hope the changes to SMGs help the medics out in mid-range combat. My god, do they need a little bit of help there. And the return of one-hit kills to Panzerfaust and tank cannons just gives us more only in Battlefield moments if you can take down an airplane. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I'll be back tomorrow with another video covering the patch and some of the details just before the Lightning Strike chapter starts on Thursday. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Westie, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.